Hey! Oh, no need for that, no need for that. Thank you very much. Actually, Teresa and I went to the Columbus Gay Man's Choir yesterday, and there was a whole bunch of applause going on for Columbus Gay Sings, I think, Broadway shows. But in the handbook was pleased to see Mr. Devin Palmer as a GCAC artist of Columbus. So I love seeing how widespread that we can applaud. Love this town. First, thank you so much for coming out on a Sunday. I know you didn't just come for the beer at Land Grant afterwards, but I'm looking forward to that. I would like to take a few moments today to talk a little bit about why we're here, frankly, what our history is. I know we've had some members who have been here since the beginning, 8 long years, and all the trials and tribulations. We've had some folks who've probably joined last week, and I'm embarrassed to say, I'm embarrassed and grateful to say I see members that I don't know yet. So thankfully, I think the help that we're getting from Christopher and Kramer means that Casey, Matt, myself, and all the other team can stop wearing as many hats and put our on-fire clothes out and actually hang out and have some fun. But today, I'll talk a little bit about the history, introduce some of the new folks, including Kramer and Christopher. Some new hires coming up. We'll hear a little bit about a new brand, which I'm very excited by. I know there have been a few people who have been a little nostalgic for the old logo. I know I was too, but very excited about the new look and feel. We're all leveling up. I think the next 3-6 months, that will be the motto for the Idea Foundry, is leveling up. And then we'll have an activity or two, and during that, I think we'll be taking a few photos. We got Mr. Will here, who is one of our new hires. He's doing photography and videography. And don't be too embarrassed if you're on video here too. So we are trying to, like I said, level up and capture some of this for posterity. Then we're all going to hit Land Grant, have some fun. But to start with, if you do or don't know, we started the Idea Foundry as a bootstrapped grassroots organization, which is a great way to develop a passionate, kind of loyal, sympathetic following of talented people. It's not a great way to start a business with no business plan, especially a business that doesn't really know how to make money. It's not like a pizza place or a law firm. People have been doing that for decades. They know how to do that. This is very different. So kind of bounced around for a while, and a couple years ago, Casey, Matt, and myself were essentially kind of making the business work. We were able to pay rent, pay electric bills, things like that. Weren't really able to pay ourselves. Thank you again for that. But that's why a couple of years ago, we were grateful that the Franklinton Development Association, that's Jim Sweeney, we invited him. I don't see him here today, but that's the nonprofit in charge of the neighborhood here, trying to make the place a more vibrant and vital neighborhood. They invited us here and said, we love what you're doing over in Milo Grogan. We want you to come to this building and this neighborhood, help revitalize it, bring your brand of mischief. And that was a lifeline to us, because really at Corrugated, I know it was raining earlier today, I was mopping up some leaks that we had in the ceiling. We all remember mopping up the leaks at Corrugated, if folks were over there, a little chuckle. So this was a beautiful building, a great neighborhood, but again, didn't have much of a plan other than, well, we'll jointly fundraise to raise the funds necessary to build out the whole building, the second floor, and once we do that, the plan was we'd have enough cash flow from offices, from more classes, from an event space, that we'd finally be a grown-up business. I've heard Willie Nelson described as a 20-year overnight success. And we're, nodding heads there, we're very much an 8-year-old startup. So been around for a while, but still trying to figure stuff out. So that was the plan. And I loved that the FDA, Franklinton Development Association, very awkward acronym, they also need a little rebranding like we might. We would jointly fundraise, and the monies that we'd raise would go towards building the building and then activating our business plan. Then we'd buy the whole building plus those improvements back from the FDA. So our mortgage payments, rather than going to a bank, nothing wrong with banks, would go to a nonprofit, and then that in turn would go back into the neighborhood. So we'd be both a fiscal partner in the revitalization of Franklinton, and we'd also be a cultural partner, bringing technology, education, fun, and mischief. And I thought that was a beautiful model. We were very excited about it. The one problem is it just didn't work. we tried to fundraise for about a year. You heard how long it took me to explain that to you. It wasn't a succinct elevator pitch. People didn't really get it. You guys are for-profit. Why should we fundraise for you or donate? So thankfully, Christopher was on our fundraising advisory council and sent an email to us, actually, I think a year ago tomorrow or the next day, and said, well, Kramer and I would like to plant a seed in your head. And that was very much, they said, you're not a nonprofit, you don't really need fundraising, you're a startup, you need investment. And they approached us with an offer about making that happen. And in a moment, I'll let you, Kramer and Christopher, talk about that. But what this is going to mean is that we're finally leveling up, finally have the means to do what we want to do. And the first concern I had was, well, we've been proud to be independent, edgy, mischievous, do whatever we want, whenever we want, even if all the obligation is on our shoulders, so is the risk. And that was a trade I was happy to make. But now if we're corporating up, I've heard a few people say, well, what does this mean about how we can still behave? Do we have to watch what we say, et cetera? And Kramer, I didn't ask you this before. This is the first time she's hearing this. When Kramer invited Matt, Brad, and I to go cherry pick some of the furniture from her offices when they were moving a few months ago. We got this projector, we got a bunch of furniture. There was a big poster in the front that was a list of testimonials from companies that Resource Amirati had worked with. And one of their clients said something to the effect of, Resource was the best fucking ad agency we've ever worked with. And I thought, wow, if they drop the F-bomb in their hallway, we're probably okay in terms of what we're saying. And then when Christopher and I were meeting a month or two back, I think Swag and Noel and a couple of the other folks have a cheap beer fund on a mini fridge with some PBRs in it. And Christopher was looking at the box and it said cheap beer fund. And I'm kind of trying to stand in front of it to block a little. We're still trying to show we bring a lot of value. He said, oh, is this where you pay for the beer? I'm like, well, yeah, after hours when the tools are away. And then he sees the mini fridge underneath it and said, is this where you keep the beer? I'm like, well, yeah, right here. And he takes his wallet out, puts a 20 in there. And I told that to John and Todd afterwards, and they said, we wondered where that 20 came from. So I think we're in very, very good hands. And one thing, the last thing I meant to say, I have a friend who's in VC in San Francisco, and when I explained this to them, I said, first, I'm surprised that you're interested in investing in us because this isn't the kind of business that provides a return on investment. And they said, well, our return won't necessarily be exclusively financial. We want to see artists making art, we want to see students learning technology, we want to see entrepreneurs creating businesses, and we want to see a neighborhood revitalized. So my friend in VC in San Francisco kind of grabbed me by the shoulders and said, I've seen thousands of pitches, I've seen hundreds of investments, never once have I heard the investors say, money isn't our first thing. So he was really shaking me, said, this is how lucky you guys got. So I'd really like to introduce Kramer and Christopher, huge honor, and I'd love you guys to know the people that we've been chatting with.
Well, that's hilarious. I really had never heard the whole thing about how we might have to behave. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Those of you that know me well, or anybody that knows me knows that I love practical jokes. I love people doing things way outside of the box. And as some of you may have read, I recently sold our business to IBM. And so it was pretty interesting to take them through our offices and kind of go through what Alex was going through, which is there's a keg here, and it's here all the time, and we're not really sure how you feel. They were totally cool with it, which was amazing. So then we knew it was a good partnership. But anyway, thank you so much, Alex. I met Alex through the work that I've done over the years as a co-organizer for TEDx Columbus. And Alex was a speaker. And the first time I met Alex, he had a full-on jumpsuit. And I was like, I love this guy. I mean, the courage to just wear that and own it, it was awesome. And I have learned in the 35 years I've been working in technology marketing that my real love is working with engineers. And I love makers, I love engineers, and it's because at the end of the day, you are so creative. You really have a mindset that anything is possible, which is a mantra of mine. And so I adore working alongside of engineers and makers and creative people that are really pursuing the ideas that are inside their heads and how to unlock them and how to connect that with the marketplace at large. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity. And I have to say, Christopher has been the person who's been hands-on with all of this, from the vision for he and Alex really figuring out things for the second floor with Casey and Matt, and I've been kind of like on the sidelines cheering. I've had this other thing going on that's been a little preoccupied, but I'm really excited to be here and to meet all of you guys today. And I'll just turn it over to Christopher, who'll talk a little bit more specifically about what's going on.
Thanks, Kramer. I don't really want to talk very long at all, because actually you're going to have a chance to talk to the people who are actually doing work. One of the reasons why Kramer and I were so excited about the Idea Foundry was because of the community of people who had built it from scratch. From my standpoint, it's a little bit like a church that started in the basement and then took over the gas station and then went down the street and got the old community center and then suddenly built a cathedral. And the reason why it's important to have something like a cathedral is because it lets people know when they come in that big things are possible. And so when it came to Franklinton, the idea of here was this Idea Foundry, a cathedral of making, of creativity, of mischief, of the impossible happening, that just completely resonated with Kramer and I. And we thought, how can we be a catalyst? Not how can we be in control, not how can we change the culture, but how can we be a catalyst? And as you know, sort of when a catalytic activity happens, the catalyst is there and then disappears. It helps to make something happen, but it doesn't stay around and control it. So the great thing about the Idea Foundry is the community of people who are members and the team, the leadership team, especially Casey and Matt and Alex, who've helped guide that along the way. You're going to hear about 3 different parts of the activity here. You're going to hear about how the business is changing and evolving, really not changing, but evolving, and new people. You're going to hear about the building and how that's evolving, and you're going to hear about the brand and how that's evolving. And we're engaged with that as much as Alex and Casey and Matt allow us to be. And when they don't want us involved, we're not involved. When we can add value, we'll add value. We're just excited, as Kramer said, to be able to be a small part of a community that's been working really hard for 8 years. So I hope you like what you begin to see in terms of the direction we're trying to help the team take this business. And we're always open to any outreach questions or anything like that. So we appreciate the chance to say hello, and we'll look forward to grabbing a beer later. And thanks, Alex.
And I'd like to ask Casey to talk a little bit about how many more classes we've been teaching, how many more members we've had, generally how we're growing and leveling up. So thanks again.
Yeah. Are you going to put these sweet graphics on the projector?
Oh, you did send me some sweet graphics, didn't you? Do some software while I find those.
All right. Well, one of the reasons that we get our big new building and we attract some, I'm getting directions. There we go. We attract some brilliant minds here is that we've been busy. Tons of new members, and when Alex says we don't recognize a bunch of you, there's a reason for that. Back in the day, it used to be we all knew everybody, we all recognized everybody, and we knew each other by name, and we've had 78 new members just in the last 6 months. So there's a lot of faces. A lot of faces that we're not going to recognize. I think it's the 150 meaningful friendships that you can manage at any given time, and we're at about 350 members. So go forth, make your own friends from our vast group. We don't have to know you by name anymore. Back in as early data as I can acquire, and before Casey, there wasn't that much data that was reliably collected. But I had one note that in December of 2012, we had 100 members on the roster, and that's a pretty generous estimate because not all of them were paying at the time. So 100 in December of 2012 to more than 350, and that's individuals. We have a number of businesses who are so enthused about this culture that they send their employees down here as corporate members to hang out and just kind of be among cool stuff. Oh. Can you blow it up? So you know how I feel about charts and graphs. If anybody's attended an instructor meeting, there's a little song that goes with that, but I'm going to spare you from that right now. So one of the things that I help take care of, classes and events, big stuff is happening here. So it feels like we're always busy and it feels like there's always students here. That's absolutely true. So we taught half as many students just last month as in the entire year of 2013. So if you can bump that up just so you can see what those colors mean. That blue, that's February. Yellow, that's in the last 6 months. Olive red is 2014 and olive black is 2013. We had more than 1,200 students in the last 6 months. Yeah, so 1,200 different people came in, said, that's cool, what are you doing? I want to learn that and spend some time with you. So that's a big deal. I also like nerdy, choosy puns. So is that an exponent curve in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? And that's because we've had so many metrics that have doubled and doubled and doubled. So gift certificate sales last year doubled from 2014, which doubled from 2013, which more than doubled from 2012. Gross revenue from classes doubled from 2014, which doubled from 2012. And these little circles right here, blue is just January and February of this year. And all of 2014, and then yellow is 2012. So we've got a lot of doubling going on. And I left it as gross because that's not just the money that we make, but that's also the money that our instructors make. So we have a lot of really good, talented folks that are making considerable income, showing and doing what they love, and showing the next group of people how to blacksmith, how to do woodworking, how to use the laser, all of that good stuff that we do here. We've been busy. So we ran 59 classes last month. That includes our 4 mega giant Valentine's Day events that I think some of my instructors probably have a little PTSD from just at the hearing of it. So 59 classes, 221 classes in the last 6 months. So we're about averaging 37 a month, so more than 1 a day. And the number of students that we're filling in those classes has doubled. So we used to average about a little over 3 students per class that ran back in 2013, and now it's to 6. 350 people registered for the tours that Matt and Brad give twice a week. So tons of people are just interested in us. And we hope to keep the double, double, double curve going as long as we can.
And I hope it goes without saying that that stuff isn't easy. And I know Casey wears a couple of hats. She's a mom too, so of course she's mostly, if you don't see her here, it isn't because she's not working. Obviously she is. So, and we're grateful for it. Let's see, talk a bit about the space. So I know people know that demolition is going on, construction will be going on soon. I don't know if you know exactly what we're doing or why, but the intention is to build out offices for startups. So one of the biggest value adds that we've found here of our members isn't necessarily the tools. A lot of people come here, they actually already know how to use some of the tools, they know what they want to make. The better value add is networking to a graphic artist to help them find a logo, or a business person to help them with a business plan, something I still need help with. Someone who can make a website for them, or help them generally understand their business, because I think the product, even though we all believe in the product and the ideas we have, often that's irrelevant compared to the other intangibles of a business about whether you're going to succeed or not. So we've heard that people who love the networking, love the community, if we can make that more formal, where upstairs We house people who are folks who are doing that, kind of helping you create your business. Downstairs will be where you make your prototype. And upstairs will be where you turn that into your passion or your lifestyle business. And hopefully, maybe quit your job if that's your gig. We also plan to have a large event space, maybe 50 people seated, banquet style or laptop and gaming style. 100 people seated in rows like this, maybe 200 people standing, concert style. So we'll be able to bring a lot more people through and expose them to the culture that we're doing now. We have a lot of meetups. I see Bill here with the Lock Sport. Ethan's been running the 3D printing meetup for years. We can only accommodate as many people as we can comfortably fit in the lobby or in this area, and both of these spaces are imperfect. So once we have an air-conditioned, comfortable space, we can not just throughput more people who want to come here, we can also make better outreach to K-12 groups, to schools, people who know during the day we're a little bit slow. Most of our classes are evenings and weekends for adults with day jobs, but we get a lot of requests from students and teachers in the K-12 community saying, we want to engage in this culture too. We want a Fab Lab, we want to learn about the maker movement. And it's awkward for us to provide those services right now, but once we're better equipped upstairs, I think we'll be able to pad the daytime hours with more of that activity. So, and we'll also have conference rooms, computer rooms, classrooms. Really looking forward to a rooftop patio with barbecue grill, margarita mixer, do it upright. And we're also grateful that our friend and member Blake Compton is the guy doing the construction upstairs, and has taken ownership of his project in a way that I wouldn't have assumed any third-party contractor would have otherwise too. So Blake, you'd like to say a little bit about what's going on, what we can expect. Parking in the back might be delayed for a little bit. Thanks so much.
Hey guys. Some people, last time I had a mic in my hand was not a good thing, but you remember that, Brent. I want to tell a quick story. Celeste talked about being a catalyst, and I looked up on my phone while other people were talking. August 28th of 2011, I posted on Facebook and I said, hey, I'm making a giant crew banner and I need some warehouse to paint this thing in. Who knows someone at the Idea Foundry? And my good friend Elizabeth Decker of Wild Goose Creative said, I know Alex, and connected me with Alex. And I came into the space at Corrugated and walked around with Alex, and he pitched this space, and the water was dripping, and when someone used the bandsaw, the lights would flicker. And we walked around the whole space, and he came to the end of it, and he was like, so this is it? And they were just expanding into the next door. And he's like, well, it's gonna be $50 an hour, this. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm running a grassroots group, I don't have any money, we just wanna paint a banner for a day. And he's like, well, here's the code and a key. Make sure you lock up when you're done. And that was really a catalytic moment, because for me, I realized that who is this guy? Who is this charismatic guy who cares and loves so much about the community and the people and the maker movement and creativity? And it made me go, man, I really want to be involved in this. So I started showing up, and I didn't go away. In fact, I started bringing people there every week, every month, and be like, hey, Alex, I got some more people I want to show. And after a while, he's like, can you just do the tour? And so I started doing the tour, and I didn't know what those things did, and I didn't know that his degree was in computational metallurgy. But it doesn't mean anything, I mean. He's a creative, that's what he is. So that was a catalytic moment, and I've been around ever since. I had a space at Corrugated, was excited to move here, excited to be involved in the construction project. It was an uphill battle against Cornucocosing and some other big name designers and crafters in the community. But what we gave was a higher level of effort and care, and we dove deep into being involved and understanding the brand and making sure we paid homage not only to this building on phase 1 and trying to make sure we activated the space the most cost-effective way as possible. And then that kind of led us into this whole flow with bringing on Nancy and Celeste and activating the second floor. So one of the things that I've been amazed about working with them and working with Brent and the other bald guy, Alex, is how collaborative we've all been in not only listening to each of the uses that we have here, which, trust me, there are a lot of uses. It's kind of like herding cats in some senses when it comes to trying to figure out what are we doing. But day in and day out, each design meeting, we've gotten closer and closer and closer, and we're now over that hurdle of, okay, what's the programming? What are we trying to accomplish with each use? And we've defined that, and now that we're past the hard part, we're to the hard part, which is construction. So sorry for the dust. It's going to be that way for a while. Right now, just to kind of break down what we're doing, we've been demoing down the ceiling. There's a lot of insulation that's been falling down, so we've had to plastic off everything and work to contain the dust as best we can. We're moving into the demo of the clear story. So are we going up there later? Or no? Good. Well, as we get through the demo here, I would say maybe in a couple of weeks or in a month, maybe we could have a selective tour up there. I think that would be great to get members to see what's happening with the clear story. I took a sneak peek up there, and the light that's going to come in here is going to be amazing. And that's been kind of a covered up detail that has long since been forgotten. And then we're going to be moving into ceiling demolition and get into the actual construction, building the walls and the infrastructure. We're upgrading the power down here. We're upgrading the power in the blacksmithy shop, which is going to be awesome. We're going to activate the exterior of the building in a way that will kind of pay homage not only to where the buildings came from, but also kind of show that this is a catalyst for Franklinton. This is a special moment for Franklinton, for the investors, for Alex, for us. This is a special moment for Columbus. This building represents something that no one else in the world has, and we're paying tribute to the renaissance of Franklinton, and I'm just really excited to be a part of it, so I thank you.
I forgot about that story, Blake. And you were actually the chief evangelist, I think, for the Idea Finder. I think I saw that on your LinkedIn or Facebook. Community liaison, that's it. So would like to talk about some of the people that have joined us recently. Again, I don't know who knows much about the history, but I started this gig a few years back, was struggling, grateful as hell to have found Casey and Matt, who started as volunteers and then poorly paid employees and have made it work. But since then, where's Mr. Brad? Way back in the back. Bradley, hello, big wave. So I hope everyone knows Brad. He joined us maybe 6 months back. Also happened to be Mr. Matt's brother. And as Casey said, the two of them give tours, keep the shop safe, clean, and attractive, and build a lot of shit. And we'll see some of that a little bit later. And then Aubrey is also waving her hand in the back there. For those of you who got frustrated getting 3 or 4 invoices at a time from me 6 months after they were due, we can all thank Aubrey for making that much more streamlined. And then we're also going to be taking on 3 new folks very shortly. So Will Delphia is joining us tomorrow, but actually he's joined us today. Will is doing photography, videography, and content, so helping blog about what we're doing here. I'm always surprised where media companies are hungry for content, and we are a content-rich facility that's not capturing what's going on here. So 99 out of 100 projects that all of you guys make, they go out the door before I ever knew you did it. And I'd love to be able to make it much easier to take pictures of that, talk about what we're doing, video it, help promote your projects, help promote our business and our classes, and I think Will's gonna help with that. And if you haven't, one thing I was very impressed too with Will, only after we decided to hire him and send him the offer letter, we were talking about TEDx Columbus and talking about content, and he said, well, if you know Ruth Milligan, and Ruth is the other, what was the phrase you used, Kramer? Co-organizer for TEDx Columbus. And he said, yeah, well, Ruth is my aunt. And I said, you say this now? If he had said that before, that would have been the shoe-in. And he said, well, I didn't want to unfairly bias your opinion of me. I'm like, well, okay, good deal. So glad to be having that kind of person here with us. And then Carmen, want to stand up, give a little wave too. Carmen has been helping with some business management, with some personal assistance help for the Idea Foundry, and is also going to be providing access to her 2 companies to people here currently at the Idea Foundry, and then once we open up on the 2nd floor and have more people who are running their businesses, we've found that most people who are entrepreneurs here have a day job. They're coming to our shared model of resources because it's an easy way to dip your toe in without quitting your day job and buying tools or buying the workshop on your own. But if you do still have that day job, have a family, have a mortgage, have a life, and want to actually explore a side business, your time constraints are tighter, I think, than full-time entrepreneurs who completely take the plunge. You have a couple hours a day, maybe. So we regularly make advantage of people like virtual assistants, folks around the world who can help doing online research or web development, things like that. Carmen helps manage a number of our people that way, so we have one point of contact if you want people to do online research or graphic development, and also if you need your pets to be sat for while you're working hard, Carmen does that too. And I think we're also going to be doing more social events, things like happy hours, things that we all enjoy doing that occasionally happen organically here, and I'm grateful for that. But someone who just says, this week we're going out to 7th Sun, anyone who wants to join us, feel free. Or this week we're going go-karting. Again, I'm always impressed and surprised that about 2/3 of the folks who choose to be members of the Idea Foundry really don't make much stuff here. I know I haven't made anything here, but rather they come for the community, they come to engage with the culture and just hang out. So I'd like to see more of that happening, more movie nights, more happy hours, things like that. So look to Carmen to do some of that. And then where's Nick? Right here. Nick Lilopoulos. Can get another big wave. Nick currently works to provide educational content online for a big organization here in Ohio, and we're going to be luring him here to help make online content as far as classes go. If you've heard of MOOCs, massive open online courses, or the flipped classroom model, where as soon as you pay for a class at the Idea Foundry, you might get a link to a video that explains parts of the mill, or you see Matt teaching you how to use the table saw. People can engage instantly with content that we're providing, and that content can also stay here when people need a refresher. Maybe get a little tablet, get a tripod, put it next to the tool if you need some help changing a blade or a reminder about how to use something. We'd like to start generating some of that content, not just to provide instant feedback or instant gratification to people who sign up for classes, also to drive some traffic to our web, but eventually we'd like to broadcast more broadly than just Central Ohio. And this will also have something to do with the branding effort that you'll hear a bit about in the future. But wanted everyone to meet the new folks coming on shortly. And now is Joey right over here, speaking of the brand, speaking of broadening past Columbus. Joey is with Bonfire Red, and if you saw Matt and Brad building a chandelier out of a canoe, that's now hovering over the conference table in Joey's business. So Joey, at Kramer and Christopher's suggestion, was the guy that would help us rebrand what we look like. As you know, we've kind of done everything on our own, which is a great way to get started. Isn't necessarily the best way to put our face forward when we're really trying to expand. But very proud and pleased with all the stuff that Bonfire Red's been doing. And as you can tell, other people are better at explaining what we do than I am. So I'm going to give the microphone to Joey, and I'll pull up a couple of those slides.
Thanks. So I started Bonfire Red in 2011, and right out the gate, we kind of went through a very similar type of situation where we grassroots, started in the basement, created our own logo or whatnot. And as we started to kind of live in our skin for a while, we started to learn a lot about who we were as our own company and started making some of our own decisions. So it was probably about 1.5 years after we started Bonfire Red, we actually did a rebrand of ourselves. Just to say that, bringing in outsiders to do branding, it's a tricky thing. It's a big responsibility for people like us to come in and take the passion and really understand that company inside and out, and then somehow try to illustrate what that means through a mark or a logo. So we try not to stop there. We try to look at how does this mark, how does this word mark or whatnot transcend into the digital channel? How does it transcend into printed pieces? How does it transcend into every type of communication you can think of? Well, in the beginning of that, we always try to go backwards and say, what are those things that it always has to harken back to? You've heard the story here today of everyone kind of chiming in. And Christopher and team, everybody, we started off with a big brainstorm, and we all kind of locked in on this one card, on many cards that were up on a Post-it board. And this whole idea is we provide the tools to empower people in their ideas. Empowerment is really built up of two things. It's community, people with fantastic ideas, and a place to come together actually activate those ideas, which really stands for innovation. So right there, we've identified 3 major pillars, which we're calling our building blocks of the brand, that can sort of be melded together in different ways to represent the new brand. So that's where we'll start. The second thing that I'd say was that from a branding perspective, when we get into a logo design, we have to think about how to activate that. And we didn't want to over-illustrate the logo because we felt that the execution was going to be so diverse as someone creating jewelry, as diverse as a graphic designer upstairs or a photographer. The channel is what sort of works its way into the mark. So what you're going to see is a very simplistic, bold mark. To us, it's a canvas. It's an open canvas. And then from there, we activate it in a ton of different ways where it's efficient and effective for you. So with that, the new logo is a very simplistic lockup, really built off the building blocks that we talked about. So empowerment, community, and innovation. And the idea, we also started playing around with this idea of, is the word idea big, or is it Foundry that's big, or is it Columbus? And really, it was more about the idea foundry and the community of people coming together, and Columbus was a piece of that. And who knows, this could blow up and find itself in different cities one day down the road. So we didn't want the name or the mark to really be too reliant on that Columbus, although it is very important. So go to the next one. This sort of helps break down the mark for us. And when we think about activating it, the 3 main pillars. So being able to take a mark that has this forward sort of motion, and again, it's very simplistic, it's in black and white. We can add color to it and things like that, which will show you a lot of different ideas of how to activate it. But the idea of community, everything coming down to a central point, of a place of existence to help foster ideas. Empowerment, really lifting people up, that's what this is all about. Innovation, moving forward, and those 3 things coming together to really build out the final mark of Idea Foundry. Yeah, so I don't know how we're going to do the reveal, but in the end, just know that we started off with a very blank canvas, and we started to really ask the Idea Foundry folks to provide us some photography and to provide us a little bit more insights, makers date night, things like that. How can we start to activate this? So what you're seeing is the foundation, which is black and white, and we kind of see that as also being, very illustrative of how that brand gets taken to life. Here, I mean, it's your work, it's your ideas, and it's the things that you make that are going to take precedence over the brand. The brand's there to support you. The brand's there to be the, if you will, the foundational element of it. But it's what you make that's going to be the thing that stands out. So we have some great artwork over here on the side that we've been playing around with to introduce how this can start to come about.
Joey's our last speaker, and after that, we'll ask you to take a peek at some of these treatments here. And Matt has made a wooden sculpture version of the mark. And in case you've got paint pens, we'd like everyone to sign. And we're also going to be GoProing that, so I'd love to have a little commemorative video of people put their names on new mark. So if you want to talk anything about this, go for it. Otherwise, I think we can break and say thanks to everyone for coming.
Yeah, so last thing I'll leave you with are just initial explorations where we're actually starting to celebrate makers and taking their photography. We know that we have photographers here in-house. How do we start to infuse color and bring this to life in ways that are super special, but celebrating you, the community, the things that you make, and pulling that forward. That's what this brand's all about, and the rebrand is there to serve as a foundational element for that. So we had some fun with it. Some different maker posters, playing around with this idea. It's not your typical date night with a dish and some tools around it. This idea that another designer of ours came up with that was celebrating maker date night, but creating a bouquet of tools or whatnot and showing up, so only people here would probably get that. And lastly, just this idea of all of the elements of the brand sort of coming together and sort of exploding when there's collaboration. This idea that this one's actually quite, you can interpret it two ways, but in the end, his hand's not cut off. The idea was to show that there's wood in their veins. This is a wood maker. This is a craftsman. This is somebody who lives and breathes this every day, and they're bringing someone else into that world. And really, that's, again, very illustrative of how we feel the brand comes to life here. So that's it.
Thank you, Jerry. Really appreciate it. Thanks. And actually, before we do wrap up, I'd love Kramer and Celeste and Christopher to come on up here, and we'll unveil what Matt made in just a few short hours. And well, we also have a little something for you guys, but we'll take this off and woo-hoo. And we will invite people to come up and grab these paint pens, which Casey found are pretty close to the new brand colors. You can see these colors up on the board. And real briefly, when Christopher was walking upstairs before Blake started the demolition, if those of you who remember, we had an old scale upstairs. And whenever we'd take a tour, I'd step on it accidentally. It would move, make a hell of a lot of noise. I'd freak people out. But on the back of it, it's an old Toledo scale. And it said, no springs, honest weight. And to show you the kind of eye that I think Christopher and Kramer both have for branding and for marketing, I didn't think that was anything special. He's taken a quick close-up photo with his phone and said, what a great phrase that is. I should say, really for us, it's been no strings, honest weight. We've been glad for that. But I asked Matt to pull that off and to put a few little wall hanger on that. So I don't know where you'll put it, but thank you for everything. And thank you all.
That would be good, like the dinner dog. We have 6 children, so, you know.
Or Captain America.
It's my hard hat. When I go.
So we're going to leave these paint pens here. Will's going to GoPro folks filming it. I invite everyone to take a peek at the treatments on the boards there.
Is there any questions? Do you want to
yeah.
any questions? You want to see?
That's a good question.
Just, I don't want to cut you off, and I don't want to invite questions if you're not comfortable taking them.
If I'm not comfortable, I'll send them right back to you guys. So, excellent question. Are there any questions that people have? I know this is a lot of information, but glad for the chance to tell it.
Or comments?
Yep. Comments too. And like I said, we're going to spend some time here. We'll be at Land Grant. If you don't want to ask in front of everyone, come up and tug our sleeve and chat. We'll be glad to share. There's always much more underneath the covers than we can explain. So this was actually longer than I expected to go today, but there's a whole lot more where that came from, and we'd be glad to chat and share. So thanks again. We'll take 1 second and just see if really everyone, I will say, when Joey showed us some of the treatments of these, of the date night posters, and they picked just that one to show off the new brand, they had some stock photos of makers, of a person making ceramics and folks like that. And I don't know if it was Brad or Aubrey, someone suggested, why not throw some Idea Foundry members in there and really make it personal. So we added about 50 or so photos of people we've had on Facebook and on Dropbox, and they picked their favorite, and you'll see, again, Mr. Devin on there. I think it's a great treatment, as well as a pair of date night people from Stephen Takis's photographs too. So it's a whole lot of fun, and expect to see more of us in these treatments and on the web too. Cool. I see a question from Ken.
What are the photos here in the middle?
Oh, okay. There are a few other pictures of the renderings of upstairs as well. I have a YouTube video that is an animation of what the second floor looks like. It's a little bit coarse. I'll share it with you through Facebook and through emails. Those are a few pictures that Brent, and where's Brent's taking the photo right now. He's our architect of Triad Architects. He provided a few hero shots of what some of the vistas on the second floor will look like. Great. Well, there are still a few more snacks here. I'll put the music back on, and we'll see you here and at Land Grant for the next couple hours. Thanks so much, everyone.
Start us off.